My name is Bobby, and I am one of the hosts of Quilting Business Success here. I work in tech support here at Gammill, and I have the real pleasure of being able to interview different guests here at different times. Hi, Trudy.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Perfect.
We just logged on shortly before you got here, and I was just telling everybody that we're having a little bit of technical difficulties tonight. So, but we're already started on. So, the good part about this one is we didn't have a chance to have a talk beforehand, so we will just start out from the get-go here.
Sounds good.
And I'm glad to meet you. Trudy, so let me ask you, have you seen this podcast before?
Yes, I have. I've watched it several times. I've watched it when you've had like 2 or 3 people on as panelists. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we'll just start out from the get-go here. Trudy, can you tell us where are you located? Where is home?
Well, I'm in California. I'm a native Californian, born and raised in Southern California. I'm actually coming to you from a town called Oceanside, which is considered in San Diego County. But I'm pretty far from the city of San Diego. I'm closer to Disneyland, actually. So that gives you some reference where I'm at. Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Mhm.
and this is and where you are now is where you've been for quite a long time.
Yes, but I come from a history of my husband moved me quite a bit when he was working. We're both now retired from our careers, and I'm on to a second career with long arming. But he had a job that I had the chance to live in Arizona, Northern California. I also lived in the LA area, and I also lived in another area of San Diego. So it's all kind of up and down the West Coast. And yeah, so I made friends in each one of those cities. And I was quilting all the time, but not long arming. I
Okay,
was not
okay.
long arming until I got my Gammill. And then I started the long arming business at that point.
Okay, well, since you mentioned that, why don't we start on that? So how long have you been long arming, and which I guess is the
I
same
got
time
my
you got your Gammill?
Gammill in 2011, but I had been long arming 1 year before that. I am really lucky that I have a friend from childhood friend that I sew with. It's unusual, I guess. We've been sewing together for 50 years. She decided we needed to start finishing up more of our quilts ourselves. She did the research, and she felt that Gammill was the way to go. One of our local quilt stores had a rental option to rent a Gammill. You
Okay.
had to take a class, which they called getting your driver's license. So we did that together solely with the idea that we would rent their Gammill and we would finish our tops. It made sense on paper to rent it. After our driver's class is what they called it, the kind of introductory class to how to
Like
use the
that.
Gammill.
Get your driver's license, yeah.
Yes. And we realized very quickly, she and I, that this is not going to really turn out the way we wanted it to. We actually never rented any. We just did the class, and we realized, wow, both of us kind of like to sew at 6 in the morning, and the store's not open up at 6 in the morning. Yeah. And so I'm still that way, where I like to get up early and get what I need done, and then I have the rest of the day to myself. I set goals for myself, and once I've reached that goal, then I'm free. But if I get up at 6 in the morning and when it's quiet, no one is asking favors of me or anything like that. So at that point, my girlfriend did order a Gammill. She ordered a free motion Gammill. And then the idea was I would go to her house and finish my quilts. And that didn't work out either.
It looks like nothing went according to the original plan.
And it really turned out exactly how it should be. But I was going to her house and finishing quilts on Friday, my day off. At that time, I was still working full-time, but I had Fridays off. And every time I went to her house to finish a quilt top on her Gammill, my husband didn't get dinner.
Ah, I can see. Okay, okay.
You see
I
where this
think I
is
see where this
going?
is going. Yeah.
Yes, we always thought we could get it done. We always think we can work faster than we can. We talked a lot too, because we are friends for 50 years. So there was some chatting going on. But
Oh,
my
okay.
husband got the text, I'm running a little late. You're on your own for dinner. Yeah.
Oh,
So
and
on about the third time that happened on a Friday night, he finally said at one point, what would it take for you not to have to go to her house to do that, and you'd be home Friday night? And I said, buy my own machine. And he said, then do it.
wow.
Now, I did not wait long because that could change, in 1 week it might be done.
You jumped on that deal, huh?
Oh, I did. But I bought a Statler. So my girlfriend had free motion, and she
Okay.
knew me well enough. She said, you're never going to be happy with doing a free motion. She knows I'm a little bit impatient and a perfectionist. So I bought the Statler. Yeah. And
Okay.
never looked back. I have loved every minute of it.
Okay. So you bought it was 2011 when you bought the Statler?
Yes.
Okay. So all right, let me follow this journey again. You started out, you would be making quilt tops, and your original plan was to go to the place where they had the rental Gammills. And did you never even do that one time, or?
No, we never rented it. We could see that, well, for one thing, when you rent it, you have to take it off. So you're always loading it. And
Yeah.
and that is the most uncreative part of quilting, is loading it. And you just want to get on with sewing and creating. And we could see we'd be spending the first 45 minutes of your time reloading the quilt. And we didn't like that idea. And we also laughed when we said, you know what? I really enjoy sewing it early in the morning, and they don't even open till 10 o'clock. So I don't think it's not going to work for us. We could see it right away that we probably wouldn't save any time or money on this. It would probably actually cut into our days. So once my husband said buy one, I did.
Did they have zipper leaders at that time?
I had zip leaders. We had well, I'm not sure on the rental.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a zip leader now. I can take off what I'm working on and put on a customer's quilt, finish it, and then put mine back on. So I have that. Very much I have that. But my husband did say, could you start a business? And I said, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to start a business. I started right away saying I wanted a business. Yeah.
And that's what you were saying in the very beginning when you were talking about doing the rentals, right?
I didn't think of business then at all.
No, you
We were
didn't.
just going to use the quilt stores Gammill. And when you do that on paper, that makes sense until you really get into it and you realize this is very creative, and some things take a little longer than you thought, and some things go quicker than you thought. And you want to be working in your own home, so that you don't have people asking, when are you going to be done? We need the machine, that kind of thing. And you have a certain amount of time, and then you have to stop. I also have found afterwards that I realize you get into a role and motivation, and you don't want to stop. The biggest problem is somebody at home saying, when are you going to be done? And I'm like, I will in a minute. You want to get this one row done. Just let me get this one row done, and then yeah, it's very addicting. That's for sure. In a very fun way, addicting. Yeah.
Okay. So, So how long was it? Was there a long period of time between the rental fiasco and the actual getting your machine in
No,
2011?
no, I don't think so. Road to California was here in January, and we took that class in November. And by January, we were at Road to California, and my girlfriend bought the first one. And I was using her freehand one.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that was 3 months. And like I said, we never did any rental time on the machine at all. And my husband began to realize then he saw a return on the investment with a business. And that's, I know how my husband thinks. So
Okay.
eventually when I started the business and started moving along, the one part of the business I hated doing was the invoices. Again, that's not my brain doesn't work that way. And I find that a chore and I don't really enjoy it. So my husband took over my invoices. He does all that.
Okay.
He keeps
Okay.
track of that on a spreadsheet. And I give him the information and I tell him when it's going to be done. So he has the invoice ready for me. And he loves doing that part. And he analyzes them and tells me, do you know you did 10% more this quarter than you did last quarter? Or he looks last year. And I'm like, oh, okay.
So he's the numbers cruncher in the
Absolutely. He is the number cruncher. So I would have to say anybody I know starting a business, it's wise to get somebody that likes to do that, because if you're quilting, you like to create. You don't
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to do the numbers. That to me, that was taking time away from me when I could be putting on a new pattern and seeing how it's going to work. And it was just a chore to me. He doesn't find it a chore. So if there's anyone in your life that actually likes to do spreadsheets, that's the person you need
Okay.
to, and actually the invoice, we have a template for it and he has it just put the numbers in and boom, boom, it's done. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's that's something that I've heard touched on in the podcasts that we've done in the past, but I think you've emphasized it more than anybody. The fact that a lot of people who are doing quilting and who are looking at starting a quilting business have an artistic mindset and not so much a numbers mindset, And the fact that your husband jumped in there, so he had more motivation than just getting his supper at night, it
Oh
sounds
yeah. Well, he likes doing that part, but he still likes to be able to. He's retired and now he actually tells me dinner is ready. So
oh,
that's a good thing. Yeah. Because
okay.
again, I like quilting more than cooking, really. So if you leave it to me, it's going to be not very creative. So he's taken over that part with his retirement. And I run a business quilting. And he tells his friends that that's what I do here is I run this business quilting. And it's been fun, absolutely fun to see it flourish. For 35 years, I was a dental hygienist, so I worked for someone else. And all of a sudden now I'm working for myself, and it's just a whole different mindset. That if I work for 10 hours in a day, which is a lot, I normally wouldn't do that, then I reap the rewards and not someone else. It took me 35 years to find what I wanted to do, but I did. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, all right, let me get the place that you live right now. Is it fairly rural or is it more in the
No,
boondocks or what?
no, no, we are not rural. You might think as you look out some of my windows, but I actually butt up to Camp Pendleton, which is a Marine base. So we have rolling hills, but I would not call it rural at all. But we
Okay.
do have rolling hills that you can see in land, but it's the Marines are working there. So we don't see the Marines, but it's some land that's set aside for them. So it's not rural. I am in a very much an urban area. I belong to two different guilds, and one is north and one is south of me. So I have found then I cover two areas for potential customers.
Okay. Okay.
I have found the guild has been the boon of where I get all my customers from is the guild, because I go to it once a month and I talk it up and talk to people. I make sure I have something to show at show and tell at the guild meeting every month. Maybe 2 quilts that I did. They're my quilts, not my customers. It's possible that some of the people standing up are showing my quilts because they're my customers. But I make sure I get up there. And if I don't have anything, because I haven't done anything new for me, I pull out an old one. There's always a holiday. And so if it's the 4th of July or our July meeting, then I bring in a patriotic one. And I say, I did this a long time ago, but it was a favorite of mine, and I talk it up of what I did.
Okay.
I
Well,
just think that my face needs to be up there all the time, that I am a quilter.
okay. Well, and I've heard one of your claims to fame is your photographing of your quilts. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, what I found is a lot of my non-quilting friends would hear I was so busy and I couldn't go out to lunch and I couldn't do because I had to get something done. And they would come over and go, where are all these quilts that you say you're doing? I don't see any, because they went out the door as fast as they came in.
Yeah.
And I realized then I needed to get photographs of these. Another thing I didn't realize is how attached you get to a quilt that maybe you custom quilted, and then you let it go. You never see it again unless you take photographs. And my first photographs were not what I wanted. It didn't show off my quilting. In fact, I had people ask me, is that even quilted? So that's what you want to show. And I needed to figure out how to photograph it, where the first thing you saw was the quilting lines. So I took photography classes to learn that. And I did. And I learned how to do it with my iPhone. I don't use a DSLR.
Wow.
What we call a fancy camera.
Yeah.
No, I took classes in that, but I use the iPhone. And I take pictures of all of my quilts, and especially my customer quilts. I frequently send that to them at Christmas in a Christmas card. I'll have it printed. It's a
Nice.
great marketing thing when they open up a card and they see theirs in the little slot where you can put a picture, and then a Merry Christmas to them. So I try to do that for each customer, and I've gotten so many thank yous. They've often given the quilt away as a gift, and they don't see the quilt anymore either. And oftentimes they never took a photograph of it. And so when my picture arrives at Christmas time, they're like so pleased, and I've gotten thank yous for it. They say they're on their refrigerator at times, that kind of thing. So I started this where I started photographing all my quilts, and I got into doing as much photography as quilting. I kind of started a whole nother business of opportunity quilts need photography. And so the local guilds here will call me and get some images of it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
One thing I learned is that you don't just take a picture of the quilt as a rectangle, but then there's the close-up images. And sometimes those close-ups are really show the detail of what the person went through quilting, and also the embroidery and the embellishment and the piecing, things like that. So I think the close-ups are important, and the whole quilt is important too, the two together.
Wow. See, that is a whole different angle that I don't know that I've heard in all of these podcasts that we've done. And I think, yeah, I think the people that are watching this will that'll be something, a real inspiration to them. Before I move on, I wanted the fact your husband is the numbers cruncher, and which kind of freed you up to be able to just focus on the creative aspect of making the quilts. And I know that a lot of our target audience in this podcast is people who are either starting a business or thinking about going in that direction in the quilting business. And you're talking about your husband crunching the numbers. And I think there's probably some people out there that may not have somebody in their life that has that aptitude, like you're lucky to have your husband. And I know the Accelerate program that's available from Gammill kind of helps you get people in touch with all the things that they need. I think we just lost our guest. Maybe she'll come back in a moment. Okay.
Okay, back to photography of quilts, because that's my thing.
Okay. Yeah, you got some more to add about that, about your about the photography?
I just think that that's a huge part of marketing our business, because you can't take the quilts around with you and show people. And when I go to the my guild, I can't always have that, but I always have them on my camera, my iPhone. I always have the photos there to show people.
That is awesome. So let me ask you about your you got your you got a Statler in 2011, is that right?
Yes, I did.
And do you still have the same one today, or what about
Yes, I do. I have the same one. I would have to say here in California, we don't have basements. And most people I know with a long arm, it's in a bedroom. We're very space limiting. And so I'm doing fine with what I have, but I don't have any space to increase my size. I would have to rebuild a house.
Things are more compact in California, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of my friends use the garage. I just didn't want to do that. There's no air conditioning or heating, so you find out really quick how hot it can get and how cold it can get.
Yeah, well, I know in when working tech support, a lot of times I'm doing I'll do Zoom meetings with people, you know, if they're having an issue they need me to help them with. And very often I'll see the machine in the garage, in an unfinished basement, you know, stuff like that. And yes, a few in the bedroom, like you're talking about. Let me ask you about when you were starting out your business, did you know that there would be enough long arm business available in your town at that time? Or tell us a little bit about that. Get customers.
I suspected there was, because we had a 6-month turnaround. So right away, that tells you that there's room. But I do have to say, and this is coming from the quilting community, quilters are the most loyal people you'll ever meet.
Yes.
And that's the good and the bad. And so they take their work to the same quilter over and over and over, their same long armor. And when you come in new, you've got to have something that makes them want to at least give some of the business your way. I never undercut another long armor. I never talk disparagingly about another long armor.
Good, yeah.
Or also their machine, whatever brand machine it is, I make it very, I don't say anything positive, but I make sure I do not say anything negative about that. But I try to offer something that they don't offer. That's what I have found has been the best. And I just want to say really quick, because I've heard it over and over, is that to do something like in a fast turnaround, logic says if you take something and get it done in 24 hours, that person will now be your customer. And I have found that's not the truth. It doesn't work that way. So that is not something I offer to someone who I've never done any work for it ever. I will not get something done like a week before Christmas for them when I have not done any other quilting for them. I tried it once or twice and I just found their loyalty was still with that other long armor. So I decided I had to do something else besides that. One of the things I have found that our Statler, we can personalize things so easily with a text feature. And so I put names on quilts. I personalize them at no cost because it doesn't really take much time with our creative studio. It's so easy to put in the corner a baby's name.
Okay, okay.
And no one else in my area has really offered that. And all of a sudden the business boomed and they asked, could you please put the name of who this is for down in the corner? And I also, a friend of mine asked me to hide it. And I found that became huge when we started putting Easter eggs in quilts.
Oh, okay.
So I would put dates in, names in, and then we'd look for them and find them. And then they would give them as a gift and say, find the Easter eggs in there. And so I became known as the quilter that will do that. Will personalize it, and also I kind of camouflage it in the quilting so it's not in your face. And as soon as I started doing that, people would come up to me, are you the one that can put the name in it? Yeah. And then I realized, I had an epiphany that it's not fast turnaround that they want. They want something special. Yes. And something that's different. And that's what did it. Then I started getting request after request for that.
Wow. So when you first started out, so these creative things, these are unique creative things that you are sharing that I haven't heard before. So I'm very impressed here. But I do want to hear about the beginning of your path. Uh, Getting customers at the beginning. You talked about not wanting to undercut other people and not disparaging other quilters or other machines, which I am 100% behind you with that. But so how did you grow your customer base? Is it just some of the stuff that you're sharing with me right now, just the quality and creativity of what you did?
And you have to be almost relentless. And I think anybody in the creative business knows that it's not a straight line. It's like you get a couple of customers and you're doing some, and then it gets quiet, and then it goes this way. And you don't get discouraged in those quiet times. And in fact, now if I have a week where I have no customers, I don't have anything that's lined up, I don't get nervous about that. I take that as a gift. That is a whole week that I do something very special that I'm going to be able to show at Guild. I'm going to be able to enter into a quilt show. If I had customer quilts every day and I did a customer quilt every day, Monday through Friday, I would never have time to really grow the business, basically. And I want the business to grow. So I find those times that it's quiet, it's like a gift that it's giving you to try something new. I've experimented with things. I love to do quilt challenges. So oftentimes that's when I'll try something new that I've never done before.
Quilt challenges. What is that?
A quilt challenge is like a guild or a group will say, we're all going to make a quilt that's the same size out of these 3 fabrics in 5 months, see what you think. There's a really famous one, Cherrywood has one, and they've been at all the big shows with Diana, Prince, that kind of thing. So doing one of theirs, they really look for creativity. And we can do so much with our Gammill that's so creative, with the echoes that we can do, things like that. That it really pops out different. They're looking for something different. If every day I did edge to edge, Monday through Friday, I would never have time to play with some of the really unique things that our Gammill can do. So when I have 5 days that people have promised me this quilt's going to get done, what you find is you make openings in your queue and you have people saying, I want you to do this quilt in a month, and they're not done yet. They still haven't finished the quilt, and now you have a gap in your schedule. That's, to me, is a present that someone has given me, that now that pattern of quilting that I've always wanted to try, now's the time. I'm going to get to use that. I'm going to get to do that. And I usually do something that looks very different. And I make sure it gets put on Facebook and Instagram. That has been free marketing for me. Absolutely. absolutely free. You put it on there and people, start getting followers that you don't even know. And that's when it starts growing and growing like that.
So what I'm hearing from you is growing your business is much more than just producing the output. Keep on getting the quilts done. You see an opportunity in downtime to develop your creativity and or new techniques and different things, and to hone your own brand, basically, is what I'm hearing.
One time I got used to using metallic thread. I was kind of scared of metallic thread. I was mostly scared of the tension and what changes I would have to make. And that worries any long armor, is if I switch up the tension, will I be able to go back and use another type of thread easily? But I had a week, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to master this metallic thread. And then I showed off at the guild what I had done, and they were like, now I had people asking for metallic thread because they saw what I had done, and they were like, you can do that. And I got over my fear of using metallic thread. At that point, it was like, oh, I don't want to start that and have customer quilts in the queue while I'm playing with this. But I was given a week of time, and I said, you know, I'm not going to be sitting around here waiting. I want to see how this quilt, I had a cone of thread that was silver metallic, and I wanted to see how it would work. Yeah, and so I got to know it really well, and then I was confident. Then I could tell customers, I'm ready to use it on your quilt, because I knew how it was going to act. That's an example of doing that. Yeah.
I got you. Wow. I don't even need to ask you any questions. You're just boom, boom. You're like a machine gun here, which is great. Fantastic. Man, Shandy and whoever's helping me behind the scenes here, if I could do a little piece just encouraging the people to, if you want to see some creative ideas, watch this particular podcast. Maybe I can do that. Anyway,
that would be interesting.
Yes. All right. Well, Trudy, let me move on before we run out of time. When you first got the machine, how did you come up with the funds to purchase your machine in the beginning?
I did not finance it, and it was a move that my husband had been transferred, and anybody who's been transferred with an executive move knows that they give you some money, some bonus money for moving. And I was like, and my husband said, use that money and get yourself a long arm. So I had a windfall. I had a windfall that I could use.
Okay.
And so that's what I did.
Wonderful.
But my husband said, let's try to make it a business. Made sense to him. And that's what I wanted to do. And
okay. And when you started, were you still working your other job, or was there any overlap there? Or what about that?
There was overlap. And I was, as I said, I'm a retired dental hygienist. So when you go to work as a dental hygienist, you're 8 to 5. There's no downtime whatsoever. You're go, go, go. Yeah. And when I found myself sitting there dreaming about, I wonder if that thread would go with that fabric. What would it look like if, and I do have to tell you, I had a patient say, you're scowling, there must be something wrong. And I couldn't tell her, oh, I was thinking about quilting. I wasn't even thinking about this.
I wasn't even thinking about your teeth right now. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I said to myself, I think I need to move on. You know, everyone said, you'll know when it's time to retire when the fire starts going out. And I came home and I said, you know what? I care more about my quilting than I care about, and it had been 35 years. So you know what? It's time. It's time to say, I'll move on.
And, you know, I've heard from people that whatever you find yourself meditating on, or your mind always going back to through the day, many times is an indicator of maybe you need to be taking a new direction in your life. So
interesting.
Let me ask you, these days, how many hours a week would you say that you spend quilting?
I try to limit it to 6 hours a day, because even with dental hygiene, I probably have damage to my shoulders. And if you try to do 10 and 12 hours in a day, in which I've done it, and the next day you're sore. And I really work on taking breaks. And all of this came from dental hygiene. I couldn't be a dental hygienist for 35 years unless you follow some ergonomics and you need breaks for your eyes because you're focusing on such a small area. So you need to watch that and be able to walk away and focus on it far away. You need to not use repetitive motion, which you will tend to do. So you need to break that up with other motions and using other muscles, things like that. But so that's why I do limit myself. And when I retired, I did not want to ask anyone for time off. I had had 35 years where I had to say, can I have this day off to go see my grandson's, play? And then it would be maybe. And I thought, so my quilting does not get in the way of my retirement. And there is a balance there.
Yeah.
And my kids have had to remind me, though, remember, Mom, when I say, I've got a customer's quilt, I've got to finish, I think I can come. And they're like, Mom, remember. Yeah. And I said, yeah, that's the most important thing to me, is that I am in their lives, but they don't want me there all the time. That's for sure.
Right.
So they say they're so thankful that I'm busy with something else. I'm not always in their business. So I have something else I'm doing. And so they don't have to take care of me and they don't have to worry about what I'm doing. I'm busy. Mm-hmm.
You are not retired. You said when you retired, you are not retired.
I just changed to another job.
Right.
I've had friends that say they're retiring and I say, what are you going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, we don't know. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I just went straight to quilting and I'm just as busy as I was, but fun. It's fun busy.
There's something about doing something productive, creative. I've heard of and seen many people over the years who have retired and didn't have, they end up spending their days watching TV or doing, and many times they're not around much longer after they retire.
Yes.
There's something life-giving and life-sustaining about continuing with creativity and productivity like you're doing there. So, all right, I gotta move on. A question I wanted to ask you was turnaround time on a quilt. What does that look like for you? I know you say you don't want to tell somebody you'll have it in a week or something, some new customer, but what is your turnaround time?
I usually give a 2-week. That's what I say. And to tell you the truth, when I have a lot of quilts here and I have to say, I'm not going to get to it. I'm honest. I'm really not going to get to it for a month or two. And the customers still give it to me and I have it here and I have it in the queue and I like having it in the queue. So I know if I have some time to get ahead, but then, if I get busy with family stuff, but I always try to get a quilt done within 2 weeks. I think that's fair.
Okay.
It's not fair to hold somebody's quilt for 6 months.
Gotcha. Edge to edge versus custom, how much time, give me the ratio there and tell me a little bit about that.
I'd have to say I'm about 50-50, but I have to say I'm one of the only people that will take on custom. A lot of people around me will not take on the custom. And when I heard that, I realized that's another niche. I was very fearful of custom. I don't know why, but I was fearful of it. And then I kind of had an epiphany because I did placemats for the guild for Meals on Wheels. Again, another thing you can practice and it's little, but it dawned on me, this is just like custom. If you look at a quilt and say, I'm going to do a 12-inch block right here, that's it. And then I'm moving on to that. All of a sudden, when you break it into smaller pieces, it doesn't look as overwhelming. And then when I did that for somebody's sampler quilt, where every block was 12 inches, then all of a sudden it was like every block I did something different. It was really fun. What should I do here on this 12-inch square? That's it. I didn't worry about the rest of it.
Yeah.
And then I said, wait, I'm doing custom here. And then I realized there is no fear in custom. No fear. I kind of like it better, actually.
And it sounds like sometimes you might do do you do some blending of like edge to edge and work some custom into that also?
Well, my idea of that is when someone says, will you do a border? And then the inside is edge to edge. And so that's probably the lightest custom I do. And that's at a different rate, obviously. But
Right.
I'll put a custom border on it where it fits maybe the theme of the quilt. But
Okay.
on the inside, they just want leaves, maybe. So there's a perfect edge to edge, it's leaves. And
Gotcha.
that is very a light custom doing that. And
Okay.
then we add a name in the leaves, some name of the person where it's going to or something like that. But I've
Okay.
also done ones where every square I did different, every 12. And it was fun to go through all of my blocks I had.
It
And
sounds
of
time
course,
consuming.
the Gammill lets me pull up blocks and then stars. So I'm only looking at those and I'm plopping them on there and seeing what they look like and going, oh, look at how those lines are going to match up right there. I can just see it perfectly. And then I stitch it and it's like seeing a flower bloom right before you. You're like, oh, that's cool. And then I go on to the next block and that's fun. It's actually fun.
Wow. Okay. Uh, and you mentioned charging. How do you charge? By the hour, square inch? Tell us a
I
little bit
try to
about that.
estimate how many hours it's going to take me. We always think we can do it faster than we can.
Do you still
Oh,
find that you still find yourself underestimating?
underestimating. So I add some. I just pad it. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes to say the price. I have to tell you, it's hard. And I look back, I actually learned a lot in dentistry, how to do that.
Really?
Yeah. How to say it's this amount of money and not flinch and not say, but
Mm.
we could do it for cheaper, that kind of thing. No, it's this amount of money. And if they want it done, they will get it done for that amount of money. If not, if they say, well, that's just too expensive, okay, then, I'm not going to go less than that.
Okay.
So usually they say, come around and they're like, now I have the money, I'm going to do it.
Okay. Can you say a light duty queen size quilt versus a heavy duty queen size quilt? Can you estimate about how much something like that would cost?
Well, I usually get my calculator out to see what it would be edge to edge, make sure I don't undercut me totally. But I mean, a heavy custom queen would be $500 starting, I would say.
Okay.
In the time. I have also considered charging per bobbin. I haven't done it yet, but it's kind of interesting in that that's the amount of time I take. So if I'm going slow or I'm going fast, it's how many bobbins I use. And I have found I'm considering going to that. And then I will know. But $500 has been a heavy custom queen. And I would say a light one would be 200 to 250 queen size. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Growing the business. Can you think of anything that would be some of the hardest parts about actually growing a business for the people that are watching?
Well, maybe being patient, it'll come, you know. Also, I'd have to say, I don't think quilters self-promote themselves very often. If you listen to quilters, when you say that's a beautiful quilt, they point out the 4 areas that have mistakes. And I have tried never to do that. I try to zip my mouth. It is also very difficult to self-promote. I am very proud of myself to say that. And I have had to really talk in my brain that there's nothing wrong with promoting my quilting and being proud of it. And I've gotten way better at it now, but I think that's something ingrained in us in life.
Wow. Yeah.
To not be boastful, and yet you have to be a little bit here.
Wow. You're giving us so many jewels here. That's great. Biggest cheerleader, who is it?
Oh, my husband.
So
But I do have to say, at a social gathering and someone goes, I'd like one of those quilts. And I heard him say, oh, just talk to her. She just knocks them out. And so we had to stop that. We're not saying that anymore. So I don't just knock them out, okay? It
gotcha.
might seem that way, but my husband, and I have to say, I have two son-in-laws that are very creative and have gotten awards for creative parts in their life, and they see the creativity. Yeah, they are amazed at what I do. My daughters have lived with it. They're kind of, oh, another quilt.
Okay. Is there anything that you wish somebody would have told you when you first started? Can you think of anything?
Let me think. Oh, I'd have to say that it always takes you longer than you think. Just
Okay.
because you can do it doesn't mean that you should charge lower. You want to say that it's cheap. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's one thing I learned in dentistry, that it doesn't matter how much time it takes, it's what you're doing. If I've quilted a baby quilt and it only took me an hour, the fee should still be the same. What it is, it should not be, it should be that your time is worthwhile and you should be compensated accordingly.
Excellent. So, last question. For the people who are watching, who are either in the early stages of a business or thinking about getting into it and haven't even started yet, what would be something you would tell them about, do you think it's possible to build a business in this day and age, starting out in 2024? Just throw a little bit of wisdom on us with that.
Well, one thing I learned that I haven't brought up yet is that my guild has workshops, and I would go and take one of the workshops and do the project, and then get the project done quickly. That's hard for me. And get it quilted and at the next show and tell. Because guess what? There's 20 people who have that project that if they see it done, they will come to you to get it done, to quilt. It's like already set. There's 20 people doing that project. Now, 10 of them might not get it done, but 10 of them might see it done, be motivated, and they come to me and they say, I want it done exactly like what you did. This is another thing I found with quilters, is they always want it exactly like how they saw it. I'm kind of different. I'm the one that wants to try something new, so I'm always shocked at this. I'm always like, what you want?
Twist you can put in there.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I have a customer that always wants exactly what's on the picture of the pattern. So I have to call up people and ask them, what did you use? What pattern did you use for that? And I do research on it and figure it out. And she's amazed at it. But she has to have it exactly like what the quilt pattern looked. And I always think, don't you want to try something different? So I accommodate her. I don't try to change her into what I like. I do exactly what the customer wants. Yeah, and I'm kind of bored with it at times, but she's thrilled that I researched it. And let me tell you, research is on Gammill Facebook. Has anyone seen this pattern? And then you have 10 answers within 10 minutes. Like that's this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the extent of my research.
I
and
see
then
that
you're like,
question all the time on the Gammill Facebook.
yeah. And then the customer is just amazed that you did exactly what was on the book or on the picture.
Trudy, I have one more question that somebody has submitted last here. Annual revenue / profit from the old days until now. Can you tell us about that?
Well, my best year, I brought in $10,000. Or not my best year, my first year. My first year was $10,000. Yeah. And my husband told me that. But I have to say my best year was during COVID. For a lot of reasons. All my friends were at home finishing things up. And I had a lot of time. grandkids weren't in sports, so I had a lot of time. So that one we went up to 22,000 in 1 year. Yeah. I
Okay.
was busy. I don't know if I get to choose how busy I want to be, and that's why I love this job. And I don't really want to be that busy again, really.
And yeah, I can tell from talking to you that the as valuable as the money is, the freedom and the time that you have is every bit, if not more, valuable to you, and that comes through in everything that you're saying. Well, listen, we're about out of time here, Trudy. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I mean, you have just you have thrown a lot of nuggets of wisdom at us, a lot of jewels, and let me just tell the camera, people who may be tuning into this, you can put this at the beginning of the program. If you have not watched any of these programs before, watch this one, because Trudy is truly going to give us a lot of nuggets of wisdom in this one.
Thank you.
Trudy, let me, do you have, how can people find you or get in touch with you? What kind of information you got there?
Well, I have a website. That's another thing I would recommend for people. But anyway, my website is my name, trudycleveland.com. And on there, I have information of what I'm working on. I do speak to guilds about how to photograph your quilt. And that's why I'm pretty familiar with talking like this. I do workshops on Zoom where people work on the photography of their quilts. And I do it on Zoom like this. So you can reach me through my website. I'm on Facebook with T Cleveland. And I'm Instagram, I'm T Cleveland RDH, as in registered dental hygienist. And so I have pictures on there and what's going on. And I post when I'm going to have a workshop, and we're going to work on photography and things like that. But again, my website, trudycleveland.com.
And can people who are watching this podcast or listening to it, can they contact you maybe if they have any additional questions or anything like that? Can they?
Sure. And I watch Gammill Statler Facebook page. I answer for some people that ask questions about starting a business. I especially get kind of itchy when I see people saying, oh, I think that won't work. Don't do that. And I answer, yeah, I'm like, I found that didn't work. Don't try that. Do something else. So you'll see me popping up there. And also through my website, you can ask questions, because I have people that ask questions about photography all the time. And I will get it as an email and I'll answer it. But by all means, reach out to me, ask me what I've done in certain cases, and I'll give you my opinion, or I'll send you to someone else that will. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, Trudy, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure, and I'm serious. You have really blown me away tonight, and the wisdom that you've given us, I think has enriched all of us. So thanks a lot for that, and maybe we
Thank
can.
you.
We
Yeah.
could talk to you again sometime. You think we could do that maybe?
I'm all for it.
Okay. All right. Well, Trudy, thank you. And thank you guys all for joining us again on Quilting Business Success. And we'll see you next week.